Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Secret Sauce of Selling podcast, the ultimate guide and sales gym to unlocking the secrets of successful selling. I'm your host, James Abraham, and on my mission to empower the best generation of sales professionals and business leaders the world has ever seen. And I'm excited to be here with you today to share insights, tactics, behaviors, attitudes, and techniques, and strengthen your sales muscles. Take it to the next level. Delighted to be bringing this podcast to you with our sponsors, NovaC. And today I'm so excited to have Michelle Terpstra as an amazing guest. I am so excited to have her. I have made so many mistakes while doing this, bringing this cue in, that really, Michelle, welcome to the show. I apologize for getting a few things wrong while we're recording this. We're just going to edit anyway.
No worries, James. It makes it more fun anyway.
Well, you're an amazing person. You have a lot of amazing energy. And today's topic is super interesting. The topic is marrying your sales and digital marketing efforts. Did I get that right?
Yes, it's a beautiful marriage, but oftentimes people are missing one or the other.
Well, I'd love to hear a little bit about what it means. So why don't you tell us what we're talking about?
Sure. I think I have to put in a little bit of context so that everyone listening can understand my expertise and my passion around this. So I spent 10 years working for Fortune 500s in sales. And then I left that to open up my own business, a sales consulting and training company. But where I decided to really focus in on is a unique space. And what I help my clients do is what I said, marry digital marketing and sales. So what does that mean for somebody listening right now? Your marketing should do the heavy lifting for your sales team. Your sales team should not be responsible for your marketing efforts. And what happens more often than not is that a lot of the marketing falls on to the sales professional. So when I started my company, I didn't want that for my business owners and for my clients. I wanted to show them how automation, digital marketing can warm up ideal prospects and then plop them on over to the sales team for closing, account management, cross-selling, upselling, all of these beautiful things. So what I got introduced to was a model called live launching. And it's where you have a 3 to 5 day event or a one-time webinar. And it's really exciting. You get a lot of pumped people to attend it. And then what do? That's the marketing efforts, right? The sales efforts is when the sales team takes over. And I discovered this really beautiful way of making more sales during these live events that most people weren't taking the opportunity to do. And that's because they didn't have a sales team. And so now I get to enjoy building out these sales teams, not only for the live launching model, but then for evergreen sales following the marketing efforts.
That's incredible. And so what are the triggers for, I'd say, leaders and business owners to really understand that, combining these two areas professionally would be a wise move? I mean, what are the symptoms that if they're looking at their business right now, what are the symptoms they need to be looking for to say, oh my goodness, this is something that we need to look at. We need to call Michelle in.
Yes. So first of all, most businesses in the modern day have a lot of freebie funnels or lead magnets or landing pages, and marketing's doing in their effort to try to capture intent buyers, right?
Yeah.
But what happens is that they get put into a funnel with like 3 emails and sales teams over here doing something completely else, something completely different, has no idea that a hot lead just came through. So one thing that you can pay attention to and something that anyone listening can take action right now is jump into your email CRM, your marketing CRM, and create a flow that notifies your sales teams of these intent buyers that are hot and ready to take action. They should be taking action within 30 minutes because what all of the stats tell us is that the second someone shows interest, raises their hand, if you can get in contact with them within 30 minutes, I'm going to make up this stat, you're like 10 times more likely to close that lead. And so there's simple things that you can do in your business right now that can connect the two. And I absolutely love building those automations. It's one of those dorky, fun things that surprises people when they meet me. And the way that I realized that I had this superpower is I actually took this quiz called Wealth Dynamics. James, have you ever taken it before?
No, I haven't, but
Oh my gosh, this is on your to-do list, okay?
Okay.
So, and on Wealth Dynamics, I realized that I knew this, but it was nice to get a label, is that I'm a creator, but my secondary characteristic is that I'm a mechanic, which means I create systems, automations, I make things connect. And so it was just glaring me in the face. And I'm like, oh, this makes so much sense. And most of my clients can't do them for that for themselves. Actually, most business owners can't do that. So I really, really love that I get to come in and help them close more of their leads.
That's awesome. Yeah, and it's interesting you say that because it's I've had so many conversations, and you got business owners, and they might have a lead come in from here and lead come here from there, and sometimes they'll always say, well, James, the leads aren't great, or they're not ready, or it took us too long to get back to them. I say when the lead comes in, it's like fruit; it'll go bad if you leave it out. It'll rot. It'll rot, and
Yes.
a lot of times the mindset happens that it's interesting. No one feels comfortable. I'm in the business of sales performance, and there's
Yeah.
a lot of mindset issues where sales people don't feel comfortable talking to strangers. No one feels comfortable talking to strangers.
I would
Now, I
suggest a
get it.
different career path if you
I
don't
get
like to
that.
talk to
We get
strangers.
that. We get that. We get that. Even the most professional salespeople, tell me, James, before I pick up the phone and talk to a stranger, I have a little bit of a, my tummy kind of just does a little bit of a twirl. And I get that. The interesting thing about those type of leads that come in, I find that for the most part, especially if it's someone that's kind of maybe re-engaged, it might be a past client or a lead that's gone kind of dormant. I find that that's a call for help,
Yeah.
and they don't really know how to ask for help, and so they might download that PDF or get that resource or whatever, but for the most part, when we are engaging with them and really help, because it's a cry for help. And so I think my question to you is, from a technique perspective, when what would your best advice be to business owners and sales professionals that whole automation thing has actually happened, and a lead has come in. How would you tend to that lead? How would you get that conversation going? Let's pretend it was from a live launch event or whatever.
Yeah. So there's a couple of good ways you can approach this, and there's some ways that don't work very well. So let me give you an example because I like examples. That's how I work off.
Yep.
So let's say that you have a lead. Let's say you're a book publisher, you're a ghostwriter, and you publish books for other business leaders. I'm giving us a pretend scenario, right? And let's say you have a freebie download that's like how to create the title for your book,
Mm.
right? And so
Yep.
someone downloads it. Now, approach number one from a salesperson is, hey, thanks for downloading our checklist. You want to talk to me? I want to sell you something. Approach number one, which doesn't work, right? Okay. Approach number two is, hey, I saw that you're interested in building out your title for your next book. What are you thinking of writing about? That goes over a lot smoother. Someone's going to hit reply, or as I recommend, find them on social media and DM them. But in both ways, you're going to get replies because you're actually showing interest in someone else and you've removed yourself and your needs
Absolutely.
from the situation.
Oh, I love that. I love that. There's another one I love. I always love to use. It's like, listen. I don't usually call people. When you downloaded a document about, we don't usually reach out to people that like yourself that do this. But there was something about your name.
There you go. That's also another, because it makes them feel special. It makes them feel seen and heard. And at the end of the day, every single human wants to feel seen and heard.
Absolutely. And another thing is, I think people want to be the hero of their own story, and salespeople have a tendency to kind of have that Superman syndrome, where they want to, they want to win, and they want to. It's all about me, 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 me. I'm the hero. No, no, no. They're the hero of their story. Make them enjoy that story. Make them enjoy the fact that they are the hero.
Yeah.
Okay, Michelle, this is really fascinating stuff. So you know what? Let's take a step into the social media, the whole media, social media thing, and digital market thing. What are your best pieces of advice when someone would consider this? What's the type of mess? I mean, is there a formula for this? I mean, how do we get them engaged? What's the stickiness? How do you create those compelling events?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So, first of all, you have to solve a specific problem, a very specific problem, and you have to be able to articulate that. And you need to tell people that you have a better way of solving that problem without them having to do the things they don't want to do.
Mm.
And that is really, really key for grabbing the attention of these types of people that you want in your event. And it also pre-qualifies them. Like I think it's so critical that no one comes into your world that is not qualified or desires to work with you. So I do a lot of heavy lifting and recommend that to my clients in the marketing to
Yeah.
repel those that aren't a good fit and to call in the ones that are. Now, it's not with using this strategy, you may have less leads than somebody else, but your leads are way more qualified, which means that
Oh, yeah.
you convert at a higher level, which is amazing. And I don't know about you, but I pay, per contact in my CRM. So if they're not qualified, then let's
Yeah.
move them out and create space for others. So
Absolutely.
I think that's a really big part of it. The other part of it is the delicate balance during the event to teach enough that you showcase your expertise and you show that you can help them solve the problem, but not to completely solve it. You have to leave something hanging at the end, or what happens is there's no desire inside of that person at the end of the event to want to talk to the sales team.
100%. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think in generally in sales, a lot of salespeople are just going out there. They're just, showing up and throwing up and bothering. And it's more about, again, me, and how we're so wonderful and all this other stuff. And one of the notions I always train and teach on is once your buyer has your information and your price, they don't need you anymore. That's it. They'll go and convince them. Take that information and they will walk away and use that information to convince themselves why they don't need to pay for the service or be a customer or yeah. So that's super interesting. So you're saying leave enough of a gap for them to have enough reason to come back, and then
Correct.
use that as a really good hook to actually help them discover you. Is that
Yeah,
what you're
I
saying?
say solve one problem, don't solve them all, because
Oh
then
yeah.
they're satisfied they came to the event because you solved a problem, but do not solve them all because they need to work with you to solve them all.
I love it. So tell me, when it comes to the actual, the digital marketing piece is
Mhm.
fascinating. By the way, I just think there's just so much going on, and I think everyone's just fighting over everyone else's attention, and that's pretty. We can probably do a whole podcast right on that. But
Yes.
talk to me about the actual sales process and the salespeople that need to deal with this stuff later. What do you find actually works with this type of an approach? And because I know that some people are good at outbound, some people are good at inbound, some people are good at full cycle. From your perspective, what makes a really good salesperson, or even an owner that's dealing with this stuff? What qualities, what traits would they require in order to I'd say leverage that concept of marrying sales and digital marketing?
So I'm going to take one tiny step back to something you said in the beginning of that, where you're like, everyone's competing for attention in the digital marketing space, content, content, content. The thing is that what most people do when they're trying to get attention for their content is they just post and they hope that you reply. They hope that you DM them. They hope that you take action. And this is the secret sauce, James. If you have a sales team or yourself, you can use the engagement on your post to know exactly who you target in outreach. But if you don't do outreach, and I own a
Yeah.
platform that's called Salesy Social, it helps you automate all of this, then you can go and you can reach out and engage them and book them on a call. If you just wait and like pray that somebody's going to take action, like, no, they're not, because the next second there's 32 other things that are going to pop up in their feed and they're going to forget to even go back to you.
Yeah, I think that's so true. But again, I think that it comes back to the whole afraid of talking to strangers, right? I mean, the afraid of engaging, and I mean, again, I hope I don't offend anyone out there, but guys, anyone listening to this, the only reason that if you post some really good content and you're not getting anything back, it's either because you're lazy or you don't know what you're doing.
So
No,
I would
no
love
offense.
to add to that with the fear of outreach. The fear goes away if you know what to say. And so
Mm,
that's why I strongly believe in frameworks and scripts. Now, when I say scripts, it's not copy, paste, no personalization. So I want to make sure that everyone hearing
yeah.
this doesn't start doing that, because that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is frameworks and flows. Because if you're given the framework for something, it takes kind of the scary hesitation out of things.
Yeah, at Saturn we call them talk tracks, and being able to manage those talk tracks. I mean, I think the easiest thing on someone's just liked your post or you can reach out. By the way, reach out on LinkedIn. send a voice message, a video message. Hey Dave, wanted to thank you for supporting my posts recently. Notice that you've liked a couple of our posts. It really means a lot to us, and I was really curious and wondering what you found valuable that that you wanted to kind of engage. Would you be completely opposed to having a quick conversation so we could introduce ourselves? I think it is that freaking easy.
Okay, so James, you know what you just did? Would you be opposed?
Oh,
Because I want to make sure everyone listening heard this because I call that tactical empathy, but when the brain wants to say no, not yes. So get your yes by someone saying no.
absolutely. In sound, we call it the negative reverse. And people are hardwired to say the word no, right?
Yep.
That's how we're hardwired to say the word no. And like, fair enough. And let's go for the no, I guess, right? If
Yeah.
But that's what
Go
it's
for the
about.
no.
And again, I think that, salespeople are afraid people are afraid of talking to strangers. They're afraid of that interaction, especially in this day and age where everything's so freaking digital and
Mhm.
everyone's kind of really cautious. And don't forget, another thing I'm finding recently is I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking, why is everyone recently just so opposed to that social, just opposed to getting close to a stranger? And for 2 or 3 years, we've been told social distancing, social distancing, social distancing. Yeah, keep away from it. Think about it. That's how we've been conditioned. And suddenly we're like, oh no, now it's okay to get together again. Like, whoa, wait a second. I'm gonna keep I'm gonna keep my distance. And so yeah, I think it's a little more challenging, not only for the sellers, for the buyers as well. Everyone's a little uncomfortable. So I think we definitely need, as you mentioned, be more empathic, more gentle on that approach. Wow, this is really interesting. A lot of interesting stuff. Michelle, I got to ask you. I like to, when talking to sales leaders, sales professionals, and top performers, and I have zero. I'm not embarrassed to say, super performers and super winners such as yourself. Do you like to do anything in your free time, in your spare time? Because I feel that people in this type of business, they're always focusing on work. They've got that finite mindset. We got to win the day. You seem like more of that infinite mindset where you're playing the long game here. So is there anything you do, body, mind, and spirit, to take care of yourself, to feel good about yourself, to maintain a strong mindset?
Yes. And first of all, I'd like to start with you have to earn your freedom. But once you
Mm,
have it, you have to use it. It is
yeah.
so critical to our growth. And like I run off a freedom framework. That's my framework for how I do business with my clients because I believe in that. So I'm glad that you recognize that about me because it is true. I've been on an airplane 23 months in a row, every
Wow.
single month. And half of it's been for work, half of it's been for play. I have two small children. I'm married. We love to go do adventures together, but I also love going to conferences and speaking on stage. One of my favorite ones this year is that I was on stage with Chris Voss in Nashville, which was pretty amazing. He's a sales legend, author of Never Split the Difference. If you haven't read it, for any listeners, I know James, you have, but it's so much fun. So I enjoy that. And it energizes me to take that time and explore and have fun and, just enjoy everything I've built.
That's awesome. That's awesome. How about any fitness stuff you do, workout? And again, that's another thing that I always talk to my people I interview, and also I think my clients and people that train and work out. And it's just like, how are we taking care of our body so that our mind works well?
Yes. Oh my God. I love that so much. So the early bird gets the worm. It's an old saying, but it's super true. And I'm the 5 a.m. club and I am up and I am working out and I'm getting myself prepared for the day so that I can rock it. And my favorite workouts, I either do hot power yoga or I jump on my Peloton are my two favorite things to do. And I just don't think there's a better way to start your day.
Absolutely, 100%. I have a notion that when it comes to us being the best versions of ourselves in sales, in business, I think people are really needy. They'll generally they want to get a yes, which is okay. I think we're human beings, and we get a yes, we feel great, right? But we don't get yeses all the time.
No.
Right? And, if we're not getting the yes, and that's that rush of dopamine, we start to push for it. And so I say, work out in the morning, give your body the chemicals and the hormones that it really requires to feel good throughout the day. Work out, feel great about yourself, and then throughout the day, you're doing great business. So, and I love
Yes.
the yoga piece is awesome. That's awesome. All right. Well, I think it's a point to ask you, what is your secret sauce for selling?
My secret sauce for selling is the topic of this talk, which is marrying your digital marketing with your sales. Now, I want to also mention that not all sales team members are created equal. And if you're interested in integrating digital marketing with sales, then I highly recommend that you find someone who has experience in the digital marketing space, not just sales, because having that combined knowledge makes someone way more powerful in that role. And if you do it right and you're in the professional services world, which is my primary focus, so coaches, consultants, professional services, agencies, like you should be able to close your high ticket clients in 30 minutes or less. That is really the goal of those Zoom sales calls.
That's awesome. Amazing. Well, Michelle, this has been great. I think my last question to you is there anything you're listening to or reading? It could be podcasts, it could be books, it could be I don't know, TV show, whatever, that's kind of impacting how you see the marketplace and the industry, how you see sales and human behavior development. Anything you'd like to
Yeah.
share?
So I'm kind of late to the game, but I'm watching Suits right now. Have you
Okay.
watched it? Have you watched it yet?
Long time ago, yeah.
Long time ago. I'm totally late to the game. But you know why I love it and how it ties back to sales is those guys never take no. They're like, oh, no, yeah, right. I'm going back. Like I'll figure out a different way to come at this. Like I'm going to win. And here's my poker face. Here we go. And I love that about the show. And they're so witty and so fun. And when you're interesting and you're interested in other people, you're going to get a lot more attention. And so that's why I'm loving that show right now.
That's awesome. And there's one thing we talked about earlier, and I like to maybe you can share with the viewers and listeners. And I know this sounds strange, guys, but this is gonna be a lot of fun. How you pulled your Hanny? Could you please tell us the
Yes.
story on how you pull your Hanny? Because that'd be a great way to kind of put a cherry on top of this on this podcast.
All right. So how I pulled my hamstring for anyone who isn't getting the abbreviation there. So there's a funny story behind this. When I first opened my business, I was starting to learn about email marketing and I had a friend, her name's Brenna, and she writes really good story-based emails. So I hired her to come help me write some emails. And she's like, can you tell me a story of when something happened to you in yoga and we could tie it back to your business? And I was like, well, that's the weirdest question I've ever had, but I guess we'll talk about it. And it ended up being my highest converting email ever, so much so that I put it on my website because people still to this day will call me and be like, that was the funniest story I've ever heard. Okay. So this is how I pulled my hammy and why it matters to you in sales. So I believe that sales is the peak pose. Okay. And what that means is that you have to practice, you have to understand, you have to flex your muscles. You can't just all of a sudden be like, boom, I'm great at sales, right? You have to warm up your body. You have to practice. You have to do all of these things. We know that, right? I know that. We all should know that. However, and I tie it back to yoga in this sense. So I used to go out a lot more than I do now because I have small children. And my husband and I were out, we're having so much fun. And one of my friends goes, hey, Michelle, like, can you show us one of your cool yoga moves? I see you do these arm balances all the time. And I mean, it was like 10 o'clock, cold outside. I hadn't warmed up. And I was like, sure, no problem. I'm going for it. Right. So I jump into this pose and I'm like, the second I did, I was like, oh my God, I just pulled my hammy. And I was like, I can't believe I just did that. And I literally was limping for like 3 weeks and couldn't do yoga. And so the moral of the story is that you have to warm up in order to be successful at selling. So you need to practice. You need to work on your mindset, your confidence. You need to understand your buyers, like be the buyer and understand exactly what you would want to hear. And if you're not doing those things, you're going to pull your hammy too.
Absolutely. I love it. Yeah. Reinforcement, reinforcement, reinforcement. I love it. Excellent. Michelle, thank you so much. This has been awesome. How can people reach out to you and get in touch?
Yeah, wonderful. Well, I would love for you to jump over to my website, which is michelleterpstra.com, and check out a few things that I'm working on. Or actually, my preferred thing is come find me on Facebook or LinkedIn and send me a DM and tell me that you watched this episode and one thing that made you smile.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And viewers and listeners, thank you for tuning in. Click the subscribe button. And until next time, whatever you do, make sure you're doing it for the right reasons.